It's astonishing how quickly things can unravel in Hollywood, and Rachel Zegler is learning that lesson the hard way. Not long ago, she was being celebrated as the industry's next big sensation. Her rise was like something out of a unknown teenager chosen by none other than Steven Spielberg himself for West Side Story. Audiences were captivated by her backstory, plucked from obscurity. She had the perfect look, undeniable vocal talent, and infectious charm. She even won a Golden Globe. Then Disney came calling, offering her one of the most cherished roles in its library's Snow White. It should have marked her coronation, the beginning of a long and iconic career. But instead of securing her legacy, she unintentionally ignited controversy that began to consume everything she had built. The trouble began during the promotional rounds for Snow White. Rather than embracing the nostalgia and timelessness that fans held dear, Rachel took a different path. In interviews, she not only distanced herself from the 1937 animated classic, but openly criticized it. She referred to the prince as a stalker and dismissed the original story as outdated and irrelevant. Her aim may have been to offer a modern, empowered take on the character, but to many fans, it came across as arrogant and disrespectful. There's a fine line between reimagining a classic and insulting it. And Disney enthusiasts didn't appreciate having their cherished childhood story dismissed so bluntly. Social media exploded with backlash. Twitter was flooded with angry posts. Reddit threads dissected her every word. Very quickly, Rachel's image shifted from bright, young talent to the actress who didn't seem to understand or even like Snow White. But the controversy didn't end there. Rachel escalated things further by delving into political territory during the 2024 US election. She posted a message on Instagram saying she hoped Trump supporters would never find peace, regardless of personal political views. The reality is that she's a Disney star, and Disney's brand has long been built on neutrality, safety, and mass appeal. The platform doesn't take sides publicly, especially not in divisive political matters. Her post went viral, but not in the way she may have hoped. The reaction was swift and largely negative. Yet, Disney remained conspicuously silent. Defense, no context, no damage control. That kind of silence from a studio is rarely accidental. It usually means internal conversations are happening behind closed doors about how to contain the fallout without making matters worse. When the tide of public opinion turns so strongly against you, and your studio is nowhere to be found, it's a dangerous place for any celebrity. Rachel seemed to realize she needed to pivot. With her film career on shaky ground, she turned to the stage for a fresh start. She landed the coveted role of Eva Perón in Jamie Lloyd's production of Evita at the iconic London Palladium. It was a bold move, a chance to prove her talent beyond the headlines and remind audiences of her capabilities. Legends like Madonna and Patti LuPone had made the role unforgettable. Rachel now had her chance to leave her own mark. But even this attempt at a comeback didn't go smoothly. The production took a creative risk that many found baffling. For the iconic number Don't They Cry for Me Argentina, Rachel performed from a real balcony, singing to fans gathered outside the theater. However, ticket holders who had paid up to $500 for prime seats inside were left watching this pivotal scene unfold on a TV screen. The result? Confusion, disappointment, and a storm of memes mocking the stunt. While some critics praised Rachel's vocal performance and stage presence, the conversation quickly veered away from her talent. Instead, people focused on the production's strange choices, the dwindling ticket sales, and the overall mess surrounding her career. Even as some reviews acknowledged her strengths, they couldn't drown out the noise online. Ticket prices plummeted, and on some nights, the show became pay what you want. Other evenings, seats were given away for free. The narrative around Rachel changed yet again this time. She wasn't just seen as unlucky, but labeled as difficult, not in the loud, tantrum-throwing way, but in the more insidious sense, someone whose ego quietly drains the energy from a room. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled that she frequently clashed with directors, insisted on her own ideas, and behaved as though she had years of experience despite being relatively new to the industry. Crew members reportedly said she acted like she was smarter than the material. There were claims she attempted to rewrite Snow White's dialogue to reflect her more modern interpretation. While confidence can be admirable, especially in a creative field, pushing back that aggressively at a company like Disney, especially as a newcomer, is often a recipe for trouble. Meanwhile, signs of Disney's quiet withdrawal became more and more obvious. Promotional posters vanished from stores. Toys tied to her version of Snow White never hit the shelves. Merchandise featuring her likeness was nowhere to be found. All of this for a movie that had already been filmed and edited. Clearly, something had gone very wrong. Disney doesn't go radio silent by accident. Its choices are deliberate, and its silence was telling. It wasn't just about delaying Snow White's release. It felt like they were burying the project entirely. Fans who once felt connected to these timeless fairy tales began expressing outrage and disappointment. They hadn't asked for politics or lectures. They wanted familiarity, warmth, magic, and instead, they felt dismissed by the person meant to represent that magic. As one Reddit user put it, Rachel came across like she was too good for the role, embarrassed to even be part of it. That kind of sentiment, once planted, is hard to uproot. Each new interview, every attempt to clarify or explain, only deepened the damage. And the internet, relentless, as always, started re-evaluating her past work. Her celebrated performance in West Side Story, once seen as a breakout, was now being scrutinized. People noted that while critics praised the film, it didn't do well at the box office. Then came Shazam! Fury of the Gods, another commercial disappointment, where Rachel's role did little to elevate the movie. Instead of being a rising star with massive potential, she was starting to be viewed as box office poison. The problems didn't stop there. The Evita production, which had once been buzzy and promising, began to flounder. Theaters that were once full saw rows of empty seats. Discounts and giveaways became standard. One night, tickets were reportedly offered for whatever spare change theatergoers had in their pockets. The conversation shifted completely. It wasn't about Rachel's abilities anymore. It was about the negative impact her presence was having on projects. Industry insiders were blunt. One source said producers regretted casting her, while another claimed that the entire show had to be adjusted to align with her creative demands. If that's true, the criticism wasn't just about her onstage performance, it was about how her influence affected the entire production team. Some believed she was surrounded by enablers. Others felt she simply wasn't mature enough to handle the weight of fame and expectation. Either way, the damage had been done. And none of it would have mattered if audiences still adored her. But they didn't. Or more accurately, they didn't know how to anymore. Her identity in the public eye became confusing. Was she a performer, or a provocateur, a rising star, or an activist? The messaging shifted so often that fans stopped trying to keep up. And when audiences feel confused, they don't complain, they walk away. Producers began quietly preparing contingency plans. Some distanced themselves, others waited, hoping public perception might shift. It didn't. Theaters remained half-empty. Online sentiment stayed overwhelmingly negative. Rachel's name no longer trended for her talent, it trended because of controversies. Even those who initially celebrated her as a modern, fresh voice in Hollywood started to fall silent. Not because she lacked talent, by all accounts. She could sing and act, but because talent alone wasn't enough to undo the branding damage that had already taken root. Ironically, her performances weren't the problem. Critics generally agreed she had what it takes. But in Hollywood, skill is only part of the equation. What really matters is perception, timing, understanding when to speak, and when silence is more powerful. Unfortunately, Rachel seemed to misread those cues. Whether due to poor advice or sheer stubbornness, she kept stepping into the spotlight when laying low might have served her better. Each statement pushed audiences further away. Studios responded by slowly phasing her out of their marketing. One insider even said that Disney was testing promotional materials that excluded her entirely. In industry language, that means she was becoming a liability. Snow White was intended to be a guaranteed win, a nostalgic blockbuster that could print money. But instead, it was being reworked behind the scenes to minimize Rachel's role, not showcase it. Postponements turned into total silence. Excitement turned into anxiety. Suddenly, Rachel was the face of a project no one wanted to talk about. It was a shocking fall from grace. With Spielberg, a Golden Globe, Disney, and Broadway on her resume, she had all the ingredients for soup, but a string of missteps, poorly timed quotes, and an inability to read the cultural room turned her story into a cautionary tale. She wasn't battling just critics anymore. She was now up against public perception, wary studios, and even her own image. In Hollywood circles, the term Hollywood jail began popping up in discussions about her.